Okay, well, let's first talk about why is training and testing important, and then we'll get into the importance of the record keeping. The training is important because we should always be learning. I mean, here in this office, I'm maybe the second or third oldest employee, and I'm 56 years old, but I've got all of these buff young employees in their 30s and 20s who go use the gym on the third floor with clock-like regularity, and they're looking strong and buff. Well, why? Because every day, every other day, they go to the gym and they exercise their muscles, so they stay strong or get stronger. That's a good thing. The mind is just like that. You should always be learning. I mean, it just makes sense. And here at Mosaic, that's part of our culture. We don't grade people on it per se, and it's voluntary, but most of our employees participate in our weekly seminar where we distribute articles or books, and then we talk about them because we want our employees to not just be smart, but get smarter. And we want to foster the habit of always learning. We don't want know-it-alls. We want learn-it-alls. Well, in a dealership environment, it's a little bit more important because, as I am so fond of saying, selling or leasing a car in the United States is one of the most heavily regulated activities in the world. It is only slightly less regulated than building a nuclear power plant in the wetlands on top of a manatee eating a bald eagle in Al Gore's backyard. Yes, it is that regulated. So dealership personnel having to deal with all of these laws that govern their day-to-day activities had best know what those laws are. How can you follow laws that you don't even know exist? Well, you can't. So especially if you're in the consumer-facing part of a dealership, if you're a salesperson, sales manager, F&I manager, F&I director, if you're the GM, dealer principal, you need to know what are the laws that govern your activities. So that's the training part. It's important to constantly educate, to constantly be trained on those topics. The reason why testing is important is you have to prove that these people actually learned something. And people, if they know they're going to be tested, they will pay attention. Test is part of the learning process. In the Mosaic system, we require a score of 100% to pass. That makes people study harder, pay better attention, because they know we're demanding perfection at the end. But it also puts pressure on us, because we believe how people do on the test is a measure not just of their paying attention or their intelligence, it's a measure of how well are we teaching. And if we do a good job of teaching, getting that score of 100% should be attainable, should be easy. And those tests aren't all that easy, but the training is thorough. But the last reason why testing is important is it actually creates admissible evidence. You know, if you get sued, I spent 20 years as a litigator before I founded Mosaic. And when you're a litigation attorney, what you want are facts that favor you. Well, guess what? If you've been training your people to do the right thing for the last 10 years, and every single employee has been trained on, let's say, sexual harassment, and every single employee you can prove has opened up the sexual harassment policy, read it, and acknowledged it and said, I'm going to follow it. Year after year after year, stacking up. And you can prove that year after year after year, all of your employees had to take sexual harassment training. Don't do it. This is what it looks like. Here's what happens if you are a victim of it or a witness of it. And you have to take a test proving you paid attention, you learned, and you got 100% year after year after year. If you as a dealership get sued for sexual harassment, you've got a defense. Yes, maybe one of your employees went rogue, but you can prove we expected the best, we had a written policy for it, we trained people on it, and this bad guy, whom we fired after an investigation and due process, that bad guy had been trained to the best ability we had of what we expected, what we demanded, and when we caught him violating those rules, we broomed him. That's admissible evidence. That'll save the dealership a lot. So in that case, using the example of sexual harassment, the training is the right thing to do, but it's also in the dealer's best interest to do it.